Hey y'all, I'm Shauna. Welcome in or welcome back. Today is a no-nonsense video. Black Friday is basically here and I'm going to be talking you out of buying stuff. I asked on my community tab and on Instagram, what products you needed to be talked out of? What have you been tempted to buy that you know that you shouldn't or you don't want to, and you just need a little bit of extra help in making those choices. Before we get into it, I feel like I have to make a disclaimer. Number one, I don't know anything about the people who have written in. I don't know your personal details or circumstances. So there are limitations as to what I can say. It's different than like me talking about me or a friend. I know all the things that I have in my collection and I know the way that I'm thinking about things. Also, just to be very clear, this video is designed to talk you out of stuff. And that's the perspective I went in with each item. It's not like, will I buy it or should you buy it? The goal is to talk you out of buying stuff. And that's also why, with maybe one exception, I don't encourage folks to buy an alternative or seek out something cheaper, because that wasn't the goal of the video. I also feel like I need to say that there's nothing wrong with shopping a Black Friday sale and using a sale to your advantage. We kind of talked about in my last video how to consider shopping mindfully. I mentioned that because this video was not intended to shame people for shopping in generally. This is really, truly about talking y'all out of stuff that you don't want to buy, that you shouldn't buy. So, without further ado, let's get into it. Sassy Shauna, we are full in sass mode. Let's get into it. Number one, Heartquaked on YouTube wants me to talk her out of buying an Apple Watch. She says, I have a super old Fitbit, but I'm convinced an Apple Watch will help me fitness-wise, but I don't think it will really make the difference I want to think it will. This is a really great item to talk about because I think what I'm about to say is going to apply to way beyond an Apple Watch. Upgrading tech, I understand on a base level, when it comes to tech stuff, buying tech stuff on Black Friday is generally feels like a good idea because tech is expensive, best deals of the year, Black Friday. So I think that alone is a driving force for people to upgrade all kinds of tech items, from computers and laptops to, TVs, other electronic devices. However, I feel like the main question to ask is, do you want a new thing simply because it's the newer version? Or does this newer version truly serve a purpose or have some kind of new feature that your old device doesn't have? I need to pair that with the following statement, that something being old doesn't make it useless. Age isn't an indicator in and of itself of an item's usefulness. You can have a sweater that's very beautiful, but 25 years old, and it is amazing in good quality condition. Just because your TV is old doesn't mean you need to replace it. And so as you consider upgrading your tech this Black Friday season, are you interested in that upgrade simply because it's old? Or is there a true reason why this is the move you need to make? With something like a Fitbit or an Apple Watch, I think this also hits on any kind of habit-related purchases. Owning the thing is not an indicator that you will use the thing. Buying an Apple Watch will not make you a fitness person. I don't know anything about Heartquaked. I don't know their fitness journey at all, so I'm not trying to call them out. And I'm saying you as in the plural you. You will not become a fitness person by owning an Apple Watch or by buying new workout clothes. I will not become a journaler by buying a new journal. Listen, y'all, I've gotten really targeted YouTube videos about new journals and life planners. I live for that shit. I live for it. I freaking love them. Do I want them? Yes. But I have bought all these kinds of journaling supplies in the past and I have never used them. Not more than a few months anyways. You will not develop the habit by buying a new thing. So the question here is, do you already have the habit? These kind of fitness watches can be used for like explicit fitness activities, but also just like walking. So do you already have any of these habits? Fitness habits, walking habits, swimming habits, whatever. Do you already have them? And if the answer is no, then I don't think you should be buying the watch. I think you're better off developing the habit first and then buying the item later. I feel like most people abandon them within a year or less. Like you might use it for a while, but like, do you think that you will actually use said watch for 2, 3, 4, 5 years? It might sound counterintuitive, but I think that you're better off waiting 2, 3, 5, 6 months for you to develop the habit and then buy it. Because to me, it's like a win-win situation. By the time you get there, you'll know you already have the habit. And in the event that you don't develop it, you've truly saved the, what is it, like $500, $600, $700, $800 of the Apple Watch. Like that would be a true savings. But if you do develop the habit, let's say you have the habit for 2 months, and you're like, yeah, this is the thing I'm going to do. You're going to buy that thing with so much confidence. I don't think that you could make the purchase today with the same confidence you would have after developing the habit for a couple of months. Number 2 is the Hourglass blush palette. There's 2 factors at play here: a blush palette and then something being an hourglass palette. Blush palettes are, in my opinion, almost always a mistake unless you are a makeup artist or you have successfully panned a blush palette before. Powder blushes are makeup products that are some of the longest to finish. They take forever. A blush, even a mini, like a powder blush, we're talking like a year to finish these. So this palette is going to be 2 to 4 years to finish. You're trying to tell me that you have the dedication to finish up, we'll call it 2.5 years. You're trying to tell me that you're going to put in 2.5 years worth of time on this palette. I think that's a hard thing to ask ourselves to do if we have multiple blushes that we already own. I feel like what's going to happen is you're going to get the palette, you're going to use it a handful of times, but it will never be finished up. And then it's kind of a waste because you bought something that you wouldn't use to completion. I have panned an Hourglass palette. It took me over 2 years to do it. It was dedication. And also, if you have more than a handful of blushes, everything else is going to be put on the sidelines while you use this thing. So all of your other blushes are going to like inch closer to expiration, which matters especially if you have cream products. Also, 2 to 4 years is enough time for our preferences to change. Our preferences can change in a whole host of ways, from color to texture to formula. And that can go for the blushes in the palette themselves, but also the other blushes that are just like hanging out on the wayside. Something is going to get neglected. Number 2 is the Hourglass factor. Hourglass products are overrated, overhyped. They're expensive for almost no reason. These products are just so average. In my opinion, they are a waste of money. All right, moving on. Bylas just wants more wool sweaters. She says that she already has too many and like typically goes for her faves already, but she's like ultimately interested in wool sweaters. I'm really glad that something like this came up because this is a topic that I really wanted to talk about in terms of like clothing maintenance and also cost associated with said maintenance. Wool sweaters are either dry clean only or hand wash only. Very rarely can you put a like 100% wool sweater in a washing machine and have it come out fine. And there are lots of different types of wool out there, so how things get washed can like vary a little bit, but it's usually something custom. The more of these sweaters you buy, the more time and care you're going to be putting into these items, like taking care of them. And if your sweater is dry clean only, that's an extra expense that you aren't factoring in at the time of purchase. Listen, y'all, in 2021, I bought a ton of like specialty care items. And some of them are beautiful. Well, they're all beautiful. But I truly did not take into account how much time and energy it's going to take into maintaining this stuff. not only is it like the expense of dry cleaning, but like where you wear stuff, making sure that you're wearing undergarments underneath. Y'all, I bought like specialty undergarments to wear under my wool and dry clean only items. So I would like sweat through a shirt underneath or get that dirty and smelly instead of the item. So it had to be dry cleaned less. So there is an expense to that. And also, like, this is an example from the weekend. I recently went out on the weekend to a place that like had really, really strong smells. So like you would come home smelling strongly. And so in those cases, you want something to like throw in the wash. You can just like clean it immediately. I knew that going in, and it like eliminated almost half of my wardrobe or like tops because I couldn't wash the thing. It would have to go to the dry cleaners, and I wasn't prepared to dry clean the item after this outing. Maintenance is one thing, but owning more than you can actually wear is another. Buying something that you know that you aren't going to wear or that you can't wear that often feels like you're just buying for the privilege of storage. Like, I'm sorry to say, but you're not a storage facility and you're not a museum. We shouldn't own clothes to stare at them. We should own clothes to wear them. And Black Friday really hits the FOMO hard and really presents like these incredible deals to get these maybe even like really expensive stuff on great deals. Don't do it. Don't do it. Because you're just going to declutter the stuff anyways, or other stuff, to make room for more stuff because you're owning more than you can wear and you can hold. But then like you can get stuff that's like so cheap, or you can get stuff that's way cheaper than it is normally. And you're like, yeah, I got this great deal. Oh yeah, I have to spend like $50 a year dry cleaning this stupid thing. When you buy something, you take ownership over that thing. Therefore, in my opinion, you're responsible for what happens to that thing, like once it's in your care, including what happens once you're done with it. Okay, we're going to move on. And somebody mentioned ThredUp on YouTube. She writes that it's dangerous for me. I feel better shopping there because it's secondhand. And then I put way more in my shopping cart than I intended. So there's two things I want to talk about here. The first is that you can overspend or overconsume at any price point or at any budget. And sometimes if we feel like we're doing something that's like sustainable or eco-friendly, we can, write off that type of behavior. Like we feel better about doing it, or at least not as guilty. So it's like, it's no big deal. Like I just bought stuff at the thrift store. Like we don't feel like we're contributing to waste or climate change in the same way. But there is still the same impact to our finances and like our stuff life, and even like our contentment life. The other thing that's worth mentioning here is just like the concept of triggers. Sometimes trying to just buy one thing or stick to a smaller budget might be technically feasible, but it's ultimately more triggering to you than avoiding or just not shopping that altogether. Where you go in and even just looking at that website or going into that store just like triggers this spiral. And so you might be better off not going there than trying to be intentional about shopping that store. Next up is the Mac Advent Calendar. And I'm going to talk about this particular calendar, but everything I have to say here can extend to basically any Advent calendar basically that's out there. Number one, this particular Advent calendar, though, is expensive. It's like $325. It's one thing to spend $325. It's another to spend $325 on a curated selection of stuff that you didn't get to pick for yourself. And that is the entire problem with Advent calendars or like pre-curated gift sets. They only really work if you love everything in there or have a home for everything. This is not going to be the case with an Advent calendar of this size. There's so many products here. I was taking a look at the whole variety, and I just don't think that like an average makeup wearer is going to enjoy every single product and also every single color. I'm somebody who does like MAC lipsticks, and I also like single shadows. I would be very annoyed to get those single shadows in that type of packaging. And because this particular advent calendar is so big, there's way more opportunity to just not like stuff. This one has lipstick, liquid lips, a lip lacquer, a strobe cream. Like, the people who would love a super lacquered gloss are typically not the same people who like the matte liquid lip. I just think this is disappointment waiting to happen with advent calendars like this, or like big gift sets. Oh, split it up. Just like split up the items. Do you truly have homes for all of this stuff that you don't want? That's number one. We could like use that as a rationalization when we bought it. Like, oh yeah, I can give it to other people, so we feel justified in buying it. But like, do you actually have somebody who could split this calendar with you, or you could give it as a gift, like some elements? I also think it's nice to get people gifts with them in mind, because to me, it feels a little like selfish or to buy something for ourselves and then gift like the cast-offs to somebody else. We have ourselves in mind first instead of other people. I would just suggest skipping the advent calendars. Next up are scented candles. And I'm also glad this came up because scented candles are like really popular items that people tend to hoard, and also like really popular at this time of year. I think how we use candles is something that we don't necessarily think about when we want to buy them, especially when we want to buy them in bulk, because I really believe that many folks use candles seasonally, as in they'll have scents for fall, scents for winter, maybe like a scent for spring, or like a more generic scent, like an all year round kind of thing. And then many people will stop burning them in the summer. So you might buy a candle now that's like winter scented or like fall scented, but you're not going to have the same longevity out of that candle because you're not going to burn a winter candle all year long. So if you don't burn that candle by the end of this winter, the next time you're going to be able to use it is next winter. And so our window for burning these seasonal candles is very small. And then when we buy multiple of these types of candles that have a short window, we're buying like 5 or 6 years worth of candles without necessarily realizing it, because you might burn candles all the time or say that we like candles, but our window for using them isn't the same as like some general scent. And even if you buy some general scent, like, I don't know, let's say I buy like a vanilla candle that I could theoretically burn all year. Do you actually burn vanilla candles all year, or are you reaching for seasonal scents? So even buying that staple, nice all year round scent doesn't actually mean you'll use it all year round anyways. Plus, candles are really giftable items. So you could be getting gifted candles too. And then that just kind of gets like your stash just becomes bigger and you have more items to burn up. You can't really control what other people give you, but you can control what do you bring in. So I want to talk about 2 comments together, which are basically backups in general. Somebody says, I don't think I'll ever get such a good deal again, and any good skincare deal, even though I have enough of everything. Consumables like skincare are super easy to overbuy on sale season because they are a consumable. We believe that we will get through them because what like our past tells us that, yes, I use 3 cleansers a year, or I use 3 moisturizers a year, or however many. So yeah, I'll be able to make my way through these products. But this is kind of like a false sense of security because it makes us feel justified in stocking up on things and buying more than we can actually use, and also trying new products that we don't even know that we'll like, maybe haven't put all that much thought into buying. Bringing in like 10 skincare items, let's say 8 of which that you've never tried or haven't really thought much about, there's a good chance you're not going to like the stuff that you brought in, or the stuff that you actually love and are staples are going to be the things that you're still going to want to buy. Which leads me into my next item. This person says, I'm really tempted to stock up on some body cleansers and hair products that I have been waiting to try because they work better than what I currently have. My issue is that my stash is still full. Should I just suck it up and use what I have, even if it is less effective? My take is that you should use the skincare you have first before going out and buying new stuff. If you were to buy new skincare right now, all of that older stuff that like doesn't feel so special, new, or effective anymore is just going to sit around and it's not going to get used up. If you are saying like something isn't effective and like it's truly a horrible product, I don't want you to force yourself to use it. Or if, let's say, something is expired, please don't use expired items. But if we're just talking about stuff that we bought that just like isn't our favorite or isn't a staple that like still is usable, then I think we should use it before buying new stuff. I think what could also be at play here is that once you give yourself permission to buy new stuff, it also gives you permission to not use the stuff that you already have. If you don't use this stuff up now, like when will you use it? You're already disinclined to use the stuff, which is totally fine. But when you buy new stuff, it's not just going to be feeling disinclined. You're going to have real reasons to not use the stuff. Okay, next up is from Lou Elizabeth. They write, I'm always tempted by Brooklyn and sheets or other sheet sets. I have one set for my bed I enjoy, but it's white, and always wonder what would happen if I had a colored set. I've never pulled the trigger because I do have enough sheets to suffice, but I'm always tempted to upgrade. Just from like this short excerpt, it feels like you're tempted to buy new things, not because what you have is not effective, but it perhaps feels boring or you're interested in something that's like more exciting. This could potentially be like a fantasy or aspirational self in here. I mean, I don't know for certain, but I think something that could be at play. Where like white feels so boring and generic, and these colored sheets are something that's like more exciting and more beautiful and can have some kind of like symbolism of aesthetics or beautiful home or those kinds of connections that you've made. Or maybe you think like, oh yes, I am a colored sheets person, and like convincing yourself that is true of you. Also, to really consider here, is there something that is like wrong with what you currently have? Is it truly like not good enough or not functioning in some kind of way? Before pulling the trigger on new sheets, I think it's worth considering the like end of life component of your sheets, or like end of life to you. Is there a recycling program near you that you can give these sheets to? Does your local Goodwill or donation center take sheets? Like, where would they end up is a question to consider beforehand. Also along these lines, would getting new sheets mean that you're getting rid of the old ones, or would they hang around your home in some kind of limbo? You know, like they're hanging around your house, taking up space, but you're not using them. They still work, you like them, but you just don't want to get rid of them. Because that does happen with these kinds of products. Like, we're not ready to get rid of what we want to get rid of, but we're buying something that we are considering as a replacement, So there's just like this weird kind of limbo, and we don't get rid of the product. Which I think, if we're not willing to get rid of the thing that we are calling a replacement, then maybe we're not like mentally ready to replace the thing. All right. The last thing I want to talk about is from Angela. They write that the only thing on their potential wish list are a couple of perfumes from Dossier. They've been waiting all year to pull the trigger, and their annual budget for fun stuff is down to $35. So she says, I'm weighing sticking to the budget and buying one bottle or even no bottles versus buying both of the wish list items on sale and going over budget. First, congratulations on panning your perfume. That is truly a wonderful and like big accomplishment. Generally speaking, I think honoring your budget is just king. Like, you've set your budget for a reason. You've made it for a purpose. Now is the time to perhaps remind yourself what that purpose is. Like, why did you come up with this budget and this number in the first place? What goals are you trying to achieve by having a budget? Or I guess more so like, what is the financial priority in your life right now? So I encourage you to stick to it. I would suggest, and I think this is going to come down more so to like the experience that you want and also what, if any, triggers are at play. I'd suggest going for the one, like picking your one favorite thing you're excited about, unless shopping around or like going to the website is going to trigger you in some way. If we're going down that road or we think that that's going to be at play, then like buy, just don't buy the things. Sometimes I do think it's more about the when than the money. As in, like, you may be off paying like slightly more in the future to get the experience that you want. And like also the security and the peace of mind that like you're buying the thing, you can afford the thing, and you're just like, you're getting the experience that you want too. Because if in your mind you're like, you know what, I really wanted to buy and try like these 3 perfumes together, but you can only buy one now, that just like might not be the experience that you ultimately want. And you might just ultimately feel more comfortable when you have your, let's say your discretionary money is like topped up, it's where it should be. You get to have that like fun choice of trying all of the things that you want to try, having them together, having that order, and just like having it as an exciting moment. And buying one thing now might not be this awesome experience that you were hoping for. Sure, you might not get the 30% off or the 40% off, but you will be in budget. So I think ultimately considering the experience is going to matter here. And conversely though, if you have been so excited about this thing where you're like, you know what, buying one, like I would rather buy one than none, like I would rather have that, then I feel like the decision is also kind of made for you. That's it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was effective in helping you think about the purchases that you want to make, maybe talking you out of them. Let me know if I was successful in the comments. Thanks for watching, hanging out, and I hope to see you again around here soon. Bye.